Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music. And Studio One of the Planetary Gig Society has moved west. We are in Boulder, Colorado, and have the great pleasure of talking to a pedal steel player, family friend, I guess sort of crazily distant relative if you want to think about it that way, but Mr. Hamilton Belk. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's another sunny Colorado day where you can be outside with your shirt off in the middle of the winter. It's not bad.
I know, it's fabulous. So just to kind of get the background, my nephew married your sister, and they're out here in Denver. We were met at her wedding, and there may have been some other time, but I think that was mainly it a few years ago. And you're the one in the family who has kind of taken music as your avocation, and you're out here playing pedal steel and doing stuff like that. So in talking with your sister, I said, gosh, maybe I should interview him. And she said, yeah, you should. So here we are, and thanks very much for taking the time. First thing I'll just ask is, what was the first time you remember music in your life? I mean, some people, I didn't have a lot of music sort of in our family. My parents didn't really play. Some people had music all around. Some people remember their first records or something like that. But were you pretty young when you remembered?
My first musical memories, and I think I have a kind of a poor memory, but my first musical memories are definitely my dad playing acoustic guitar. He doesn't play so much anymore, but he used to when we were kids. And I remember, like, as a young boy getting the pick stuck inside the acoustic guitar and trying to shake it out. And then, I think I took piano lessons for a year when I was pretty young with Whitner. We would go to the teacher's house at the same time. And those are definitely some of my earliest memories of, music. So.
I didn't realize your father played. Did he play for a long time, or did he kind of picked at it, or?
I think he got a guitar in college, and as many people in the 70s did. Actually, I have that guitar. It's hanging up on the wall right over there. It's like that mass-produced Yamaha acoustic guitar that all the folkies had in the 70s. And so I think he just kind of had it and picked around.
Do you remember what kind of music he played?
I don't really, yeah.
Yeah. Did you end up then, did it inspire you in a sense, or did you come back to it later? Did you take lessons, or what kind of?
I think it, must have resonated some sort of musical bone. And then I really hated the piano lessons. I think that was when I was around 6 or so. And I was able to convince my mom to let me take some guitar lessons, I think.
At 6?
No. I think I had a couple of years off, and then I was like 10 or so. And I got a guitar and started taking some guitar lessons.
Was there music that grabbed you at that point? It's kind of any particular type
of
music?
Well, if you're curious about what I was listening to, so I would listen to like the radio, and I had this little radio cassette player where I could, record the songs that were being played over the radio. So I would make myself mixtapes of the stuff that I liked, and it was all kind of pop rock, big budget, really crappy alternative. It was called like alternative rock, but it was not that good. But yeah, that's what I first latched on to.
Yeah. So then after guitar for a while, you get into your sort of close to high school years. Did you start playing with other folks?
I made some musical friends in high school, and we played. We kind of had like we called it bluegrass, but it definitely wasn't bluegrass in a strict sense. We just had the instruments, but we were kind of just playing Americana folk music. And yeah, sometimes we would just like jam out or whatever.
And did you play any gigs back then?
In high school, I think I did, like at the high school, but nothing beyond that really.
Yeah. And then college years and all, were you taking lessons the whole time? Were you jamming with people, or?
I took guitar lessons for probably three years or so in like middle school, and then I didn't take any lessons at all. I think I took like 2 violin lessons and 1 drum lesson during college. And that was it for my lessons, I think.
Yes. So, but you became pretty focused on the music then.
It was really, in college I played with other students, but it wasn't until I graduated that I really kind of decided I wanted to make this effort to really dive into music as a more of a career choice.
Yeah. Can you explain why that was?
I think I just, I studied, part of my focus in college was education, and I was working towards getting certified to teach in public school. I had already done a little bit of teaching in private school, and I just kind of had like a crisis where I just felt like it wasn't what I was meant to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I wound up getting this job that I had for 4 years working for a sculptor. That was an extremely flexible job. He was really supportive of all of his employees' creative pursuits, and so it made it really possible for me at that time to have ample time to develop as a musician and to like play gigs and do tours here and there. And I think now he actually has, for his employees, they're only allowed to work 4 days a week maximum, so that they have to have their studio day.
Nice. So, boy, well, we need more of that, don't we?
Yeah, he's an incredible person.
So what kind of music were you playing at that point? Guitar?
Yeah, the first band I started playing in that was like, we performed at venues and stuff. I was playing electric guitar and then synthesizers and a little bit of banjo. And that was kind of an indie rock band. And I think I just sort of always had this draw towards like the twangy sounds, and I don't even know when I knew what a pedal steel guitar was, but that's something I've always thought about, was like, was it when my mom was listening to Garth Brooks when I was a little kid? Was that when I first heard it or something? But yeah, it was actually kind of crazy. I got sort of enraptured by this one band that I saw, and
I know how that happens. Yeah,
and they didn't have a lap steel player at the time, but when I went and listened to their albums, there was lap steel on it, and I got this crazy idea that if I could meet the person, the songwriter, I could somehow convince them to let me play with them. So actually one day, it was my birthday, and I saw him walking down the street in Portland, Maine, where I was living at the time, and I just went up to him and said, "Hey," I introduced myself, and I told him I played lap steel, which was not true at all, and asked if I could play with them. And he said, "Sure, just come to practice." And so I got a lap steel as quick as I could and started learning. Basically, that's what got me into the steel guitar.
Wow. It's amazing how those things work, doesn't it? I remember, I do have a memory of one of the first times I knew a lap steel was a lap steel. We used to go to see Emmylou Harris play down in downtown DC, and this would have been like 1970 something.
Cool.
And it sounds so great. I mean, it's an amazing instrument. So how hard was the transition from guitar to lap steel, and what are sort of some of the other differences? You don't see a lot of lap steel players singing.
Oh yeah,
it's hard,
not
right?
too much. Yeah, it's well, lap steel is even a different animal than pedal steel, and so lap steel is kind of what got me into the sound and the kind of hand techniques. And then it was a year later I got a pedal steel guitar and started kind of diving into that.
Oh, so maybe I'm not even focused on it. Lap steel would be like a guitar that has its flat neck or raised strings or something, and then the pedal steel is on the little machine.
Yeah, and it's got there's like this undercarriage. I can show you. It looks crazy. It was developed, I think the first one was invented by an airplane mechanic. He used a bunch of old airplane parts, and
I have seen the underside of one of those, and I can understand that it might have been.
I don't even know how to maintain mine. That's something I really need to learn. But
obviously, that sound really grabbed you, and so you just started learning it and doing it.
Yeah, and the sculptor I worked for, he told us all the time. He was like, I became a sculptor when I started telling people I was a sculptor, and so I sort of took that to heart, and I don't know. I think that's probably somewhat what made it possible for me to just go tell that guy I played lap steel.
Well, I guess, similarly, I'm the chief spiritual dude because I tell people that's who I am.
Yeah.
So that was for a while you were playing in Maine,
Mm-hmm.
and you played with some bands there, and you were playing pedal steel at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And what did the type of music that you were playing, did that sort of change? Is it morphed now to what are you playing now?
Well, yeah, I think the music scenes in Maine versus Colorado, I think, are pretty similar to the differences in the weather. The music out here is just a little bit happier, I think, and sunnier. It was broody at the bands I was playing.
Broody?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a little more emotive, I would say.
Uh-huh.
Which is kind of the stuff that tugs at my heartstrings. And what I play a lot now is more than anything just like kind of classic honky-tonk country.
Yeah.
Which I've had to learn how to play. I didn't play anything like that until I moved here, and it's been a lot of fun to learn, because that's kind of what the steel guitar was made for. So I think I've grown as a pedal steel guitarist more in the last year than I did the previous 3 years.
Wow. Yeah, we have some good friends in a honky-tonk band, and they have a pedal steel player, Bobby Birdsong, and
is that his real last name?
Yeah. he just it's kind of magic when you hear it. It is a really unique sort of an instrument.
It's unique, and I think it's so versatile, and also I think the really exciting thing about it is that there's still so much exploration left to do for pedal steel guitarists, and that's what really excites me. And then there's just a great community out here too. In Maine, I think one other person who played, and out here there's actually a monthly gathering. We all get together in this guy's motorcycle shop, and usually there's at least 8 people, and we're all in a circle with our pedal steels having
Wow.
yeah.
And are they all playing honky-tonk type stuff or country or what?
I think everyone kind of has their own, unique approach, but a lot of us are playing in that country scene, I call it neo honky-tonk.
Neo honky-tonk. That's a good term for it. So you did, you came from a sort of a business-oriented family in a respect, and then here you go off to Maine and start playing the pedal steel guitar. Has it been difficult in a way to make that your choice?
I think it was a little like I had to like give myself permission to do it. Kind of.
Yeah.
That was, a moment of growth, I think, that I, had to go through. But, I've been so captured by music since I was like 10 years old. And I think somewhere inside for that, since then, that's what I've wanted to do,
Well, that's a good way to describe it, as being captured by music. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, it's not something that we all think about every day. The music is all around us. It's in restaurants, and I mean, I don't know if it's still in elevators, but it's everywhere we go. It's part of what we do, and it does capture us. But some people just really grabs them by the throat, in a sense. And can you describe or talk about situations or instances, examples, things that have happened, or just things that you think about how is it that music captures you? What is it capturing? What are you trying to accomplish by being captured by music?
It's kind of like feels like a sixth sense for me, kind of, all of your senses are always operating in the background, even if you're not conscious of it. And for me, I feel like there's always a song in my head, or my partner, Kristen, gets frustrated with me because I am distracted so often just by what's going on in my brain.
That happens to me too. I'm with you.
So in terms of like what I am interested in accomplishing by being captured by music, I just want to make music that moves me, and hopefully other people can, have a positive experience from it, even if the music is darker. A lot of times that is kind of the stuff that has the most power in my life for helping me, get over a difficult situation or something like that. Or it can just be pure joy. So yeah, I don't know, just making works of art that make life more beautiful, I suppose.
I think that's a good way to think about it. So you've been with many musicians, throughout your life, playing and learning, in this group you have now, for example, and you've performed for a lot of people, different venues, I'm sure. Sometimes they're listening, sometimes they're not. And what do you perceive the effect of the music you're playing on others? Do you have thoughts about that? They're in the audience, or?
Yeah, and I think the environment really makes a big difference too. Sometimes I think it's just helping people have a good night, and maybe it's the weekend and they're letting loose from a hectic work week, or it could be a Sunday night or a Tuesday night, and it's moving them to tears. And I play with a lot of songwriters too, so a lot of times it's kind of the songs that are moving people to tears, and I'm just trying to be a vessel of support in that effort. I also work as a live sound engineer too, so a lot of times I'm just trying to help the music sound as best as it can to give people, a lot of people don't even realize kind of what's going on in terms of the engineering of the sound, but I like doing that too, just trying to serve the people who are making the music.
Enhance the experience.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because I've been bitten by the music is so powerful bug, in a way, and doing a lot of research and study and talking with a lot of people about it, and it just seems to me that people would rather play music than shoot at each other. They'd rather sit around some good food and drink in a nice place and sort of share that experience than run out with a semi-automatic gun. And maybe some of what we're doing or talking about can kind of make a difference that way.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I really appreciate about music is just the power of connection that it holds. I wind up doing a lot of music with people that I probably will never meet, just through the internet. Today I was doing some overdubs for people I know, but it was, I think it kind of speaks to the power of music. I have a friend back in Maine who is currently producing an album of songs written by our friend who passed away a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a, last album for this guy, Johnny Fountain, who, did make albums, but I think these are songs that maybe never got recorded. And just like, I think it's going to really be a nice thing for people to have as a way of remembering a really beautiful person. And that's just kind of one example of, kind of the power of music to enhance your memories and bring you back to a time and place, or to connect with a particular person. That was really exciting. I got that email this morning, and I was really excited about that.
Yeah, very nice. Well, that's another thing. There's this group, Playing for Change, that records songs by musicians. They'll start off with one in one country, and then there's another country. You may have seen it, and it's really sort of a virtual song. People all around the world playing the same song, and that's what you're talking about. And it is the connections can be a web from Spotify and Pandora and other things like that, or just the fact that people are getting together and making music, over the internet.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
I think that also sort of the just like anything, the anonymity that the internet creates can be tremendously awful, but I find that it helps me to be sort of fearless in reaching out to people that I maybe normally wouldn't reach out to. I email people all the time suggesting collaboration, and I think a lot of, usually I wind up looking back on it and being like, how was I that full of myself to to email that person? But like, for example, yesterday, one of the things I've been doing lately is exploring how the pedal steel guitar can sort of emulate the sound of karar, K-R-A-R. It's an Ethiopian instrument.
Huh.
And I think I've sort of developed a sound that's kind of unique, and I researched yesterday on the internet, what are some of the recording studios in Addis Ababa, and I emailed one of them. Who knows if they'll ever write back or something, but I like weird, interesting collaboration, so it kind of would be my dream if they wrote me back and said, we would love to have pedal steel on something.
Wow, well that's cool. I have at least one very good friend who's a musician from Ethiopia. Just the Ethiopians are so nice. My wife and I talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
They're just so nice. They're the nicest people on the planet, practically. So hopefully that kind of collaboration will work. And what you're saying gives me I've been doing a little bit of this in terms of going around and asking people if they'd like to do interviews like I asked you. And I know there's 1 million people. There's actually 7 billion people I'd like to interview around the planet. And I think almost everyone would have stories about music, the power of music in their lives in some way, whether they're musicians or not, or even feel like they can't carry a tune. So, that's what you're suggesting is, encouraging for me and probably for other people, who may be listening, that, if you got something you want to do, just roll on with it, give it a shot.
I mean, the worst that can happen is someone says no, and then I just go about my day. Or maybe occasionally I'll get an email back where the person sounds a little bit frustrated, and I don't know. I don't think I did anything too bad.
Right.
So I don't know. It's like the potential benefit is, outweighs the potential harm by a long shot.
By a long shot. So where do you think you want to kind of take this from here? You moved out to Colorado. I mean, obviously it's fabulous out here. Open people, open spaces. You got family out here. But musically, what are your, do you have some goals that you're thinking about?
Well, I've always wanted to make an album of my own songs. So that's kind of constantly a goal of mine that I always put stuff in front of to prevent me from doing it. But I hope to do that at some point. And then I just want to keep kind of experimenting with pedal steel guitar. And, I also practice other instruments. And that's one of the things I like about, trying to become a full-time musician is it's so multifaceted. And I don't know, I'm always trying to do like 8 different things at once. One thing I would like to learn how to do is film scoring. I recently reached out to a person who produces a sort of a web-based cartoon that's about Maine, and they wrote back with some interest in possibly having me do some short musical cues for their cartoon and stuff like that. So I like the variety. I don't want to get stuck doing just one thing all day.
well, nowadays to be a musician, you kind of have to be a technician too,
Certainly
recording
helps.
and all that. Well, anything that you would say, because your story is inspiring in many ways, that you just want to do it, move to Colorado, and you've got this plan to just keep sort of focusing on music as a major part of your life. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who think, well, I can't really sing. I used to play guitar. Any thoughts for people who maybe don't know exactly how to follow their dreams?
Well, what you just said kind of made me think of this. I'm not the greatest singer, but I've really, singing is one of the things I really love to listen to, a great singer. And it's something I've wanted to improve on. So what I started doing about a week and a half ago was I took this one chorus from a song of a person who I really want to be able to sing like, and I've just been practice singing it every day. And I've noted my partner will remark about how much I've improved just in a week. And I think when people say that they're not musical, like we were talking about, I think before we started, just how, essentially we're all vibrations. I don't think there's anyone who's not musical, and there is sometimes a hump you have to get over to learn anything. So if you want to just sing every day, or get a guitar and pick it up once a day for 10 minutes, before you know it, you're going to be playing stuff that makes you happy, and hopefully will be, making other people happy too. I think if everybody played music, the world would be a better place for certain. So.
Oh man, I'm definitely with you on that. So thanks very much for the time. I appreciate your letting me come up here to move the studio out to the wilderness a little bit, and thanks very much for the time. So Hamilton Belk, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. Thanks for getting in touch.
All right. You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.